Hi, let's talk about the 10 critical factors that can make or break your marriage. These insights can transform your relationship from struggling to thriving. I'm John Golda with Solid Rock Marriage Restoration, and these are 10 crucial factors that can make or break your marriage. So, understanding these things can cause marriages to struggle and fail. Understanding these things that can cause marriages to struggle and fail is really the first step in being able to overcome them and to avoid stumbling on them in your marriage. So you have to be better prepared in Christian marriages or in marriages in general. We just have to be better prepared for what to expect in marriage. What are those things that are really going to cause us to trip up and have struggles, and how to work around them. Marriage is a lifelong journey. It's not something you just try out as the next step in a relationship. It's a commitment, it's a covenant. And marriage is going to have its ups and downs, and we need to have the endurance and the commitment to work through that, to honor God as we enjoy our marriages, as opposed to just endure our marriages. So these are things that are really good to get into a discussion with your spouse and to help drive a good understanding whether or not you might be struggling with some of these things yourselves, and then that can help you take action to make things better. So the first one is unrealistic expectations. I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but one of the most common reasons that marriages struggle and they hit rocky shores, if you will, is because of inadequate expectations. They don't realize marriage costs something. It requires working through tough times together. It requires compromise. It requires selflessness. It's not just endless fun and enjoyment and bliss and everything goes out my way. So unrealistic expectations can really cause stress, and sometimes we don't even realize that's what the problem is. We just think the other spouse isn't doing enough to be the right spouse, the right husband or wife. And it's really our own expectations. I think a second issue I want to talk about is the concept of commitment versus covenant. Too often we think of it as a contract, marriage as a contract. And contract you can get into, you can get out of, just depends on certain conditions. But really a covenant is meant to be permanent. It's meant to be endured even through difficulties and hardships. It's supposed to be a lifelong commitment. It's not something you just pivot out of and go find someone else to have a contract with. Another thing I think that is common is the true nature of love. People often think of love as just a feeling that happens to us, that we have no control over, we have no influence on. Love is not like that. The love that God describes in His Word, in the Bible, is about a choice we make. It's not something that happens to us. We love because God first loved us. Think about that, right? We love unconditionally. God is the foundation of that love, and it's built on faith. It's built on commitment and relationship with God. It's not just, I don't love her anymore. I don't love him anymore. That's how we feel, but a deeper commitment in what love really is a choice to serve, to sacrifice. Another one, number 4, familiarity. You've probably heard the expression, familiarity breeds contempt. Well, it can be a trap. And so we have a tendency to take for granted those things we're familiar with, the good things of those. And then we have a tendency to focus on what we still don't have or what we would like to be even better. And so it's easy to focus on the negatives. It's easy to take your spouse for granted. Instead, cultivate a gratitude and appreciation for your spouse. An example I would use there, just in my own marriage, is Tonia and I see things so differently. She's very relationship focused and I'm very task focused. And so I could look at it and I could say, well, I needed to get this task done. I asked her to get it done and she didn't get it done as quickly as I thought it should be done. And I could be focused on that and I could be negative and I could be irritated. Or I could look at it and say, she didn't get that task done because she was going out of her way to show love for me in other ways, to show love for the children, to take care of her mom, whatever the case may be. And so it's very easy for familiarity to just focus on the negative and breed contempt, and don't do that. Focus on the positive. There are lots of good things that each spouse has, and we need to focus on those. The art of communication is number 5. Communication is critical, and it's often assumed, we often assume, oh, we're good at communication because we talk. Well, we can talk a lot and still not connect and understand one another. So I'm here to say that most of us don't really communicate as well as we think we do. And by the way, men, you need to be taking lead on this. This isn't something that you're supposed to just leave for your wives. Communication is so important, and it needs to go deeper than surface level conversations. You need to really understand your spouse's personality and perspective to have a good understanding of what's going on and how to communicate effectively. Number 6, affecting a lot of families and marriages, the dangers of sexual depravity. A lot of people don't like to talk about it, but it's affecting people in great numbers. Things like sexual struggles, like pornography use, adultery, and sometimes very twisted desires that sort of get imported into marriages by things like culture. It could be movies, it could be pornography, it could be other things in society or on the internet that are bringing these things into the marriage and expectations and desires that really aren't godly, and it's not what God intended. So healthy sexual intimacy, for example, is built on trust, respect, and it's not based on it's based on consent. It's not based on coercion or manipulation. Those are just some examples. Using sex as maybe an example people might be familiar with is using sex as some sort of a disciplinary tool. I'm gonna the wife may withhold sex from her husband until he does what she wants or what she feels is necessary. That's not the way God says to do it. It's not supposed to be a weapon or a tool. Number 7, it's a battle of trust. So when things start going into difficulty and challenges in the marriage, in many cases the wives will tend to hold on longer, and that's great. But when they finally give up, they feel their trust is broken, they go down hard, and they don't want to open up to that vulnerability again. So once they roll over, sometimes they're not willing to come back, and it's very hard for them to come back and be willing to try and revive the marriage. And that leads into number 8, which is a wake-up call for men. Don't take your wives for granted. Some men I've encountered have come to realize, even though they had every chance to know there were problems and their wife was struggling with the relationship, they just couldn't seem to get their mind around the fact that this was a really serious issue until it was too late or near too late. And it's much harder from that time where the wife has given up to now suddenly make changes to try and win her back. And so the wake-up call for men is, don't wait till it's too late. Don't take your wives for granted. Recognize the need for change before you reach that point, which may be no return. Number 9, it's a challenge of leadership. Men, you're supposed to lead. Women, you're supposed to let them and support them. That means, the wife can't be unleadable. She can't usurp his authority. She can't undermine his authority. A harmonious marriage requires mutual respect and partnership. Obviously, as part of that, men, when you lead, you need to lead and love your wives as Christ loved the church. Not just determining whatever you think is great for you and forget her needs. I think number 10 is unity on core questions. So just lack of unity and accord on fundamental questions can lead to marital challenges and difficulties. So issues like, what's the purpose of marriage? Is having kids good or bad? Why should I forgive? Why should I be selfless in marriage? Why is it important to have a relationship with God? These things need to be discussed openly and honestly, and not just shuffled under the rug if there's disagreements and gaps here. One other item I would emphasize, because I guess because I'm around it and I see it, is there's a lifeline for struggling marriages, but all too often, and I'm reflecting specifically on number 7 and 8, which is the battle of trust, where the wives are hanging on and then give up, and the men wake up too late and realize they need to change to save their marriage. All too often, couples are waiting too long to get the help they need from coaching or counseling that could really transform their marriage. They wait and they wait and they wait. They hope it'll go away. They ignore the problems. They assume that if they ask God, everything's just going to work out great, even if they don't really make any effort at all to change anything or get help. And so they just don't take the action and get the help they need. And then it gets harder if you come to do it later, especially once somebody's giving up. It's very hard then. Not impossible. With God, all things are possible, but it gets harder. So, when I think about kind of summing it up, you can't just coast on Christian morality and the things that you're supposed to do or supposed to want, like forgiveness and trusting and for covenant. You really have to believe it deep down. You have to embrace it. You can't just. You have to let your relationship with God really lead your marriage and fuel your marriage. So it's you need to be spirit-led. You can't just kind of coast and just say we're trying at a surface level, because that's not going to endure the struggles. So again, your marriage is worth it. If you're having trouble, if you're having difficulties, there's no time to waste. If you're ready to learn more about how we help Christians to heal and restore their marriages, please check out our website, www.solidrockmarriagerestoration.com. And, don't let time slip away. Don't wait until it's harder and harder or past the point of no return. Your journey to a thriving marriage can start as soon as you take action to make it start. So hope to hear from you for those who need help, and may God be with you. Have a good day.